Hey friends, welcome back to Birds of a Feather Talk Together. This week we are talking about the Costa's hummingbird. We wanted to give a shout out to Jean, who wrote to us from Reno, Nevada about a Costa's hummingbird which showed up in her yard. She wrote to us, and John and Shannon were excited to talk about them, so we decided to do a full episode on these amazing birds. We also wrap up a little discussion from our Black-backed Woodpecker episode as well, so there's a little talk there to kick us off. It's a great episode with so much to discuss. Okay, let's go grab our binoculars and let's get into it. One thing before we get into the episode, we wanted to share a podcast reco that we've been really into lately, which is called Spirits. They actually did a really fun vampire episode last week that reminded me of our Blood-Sucking Birds episode. They explored folklore of vampires in different parts of the world and compared how they were similar and how they were different depending on different cultures. Spirits is a history and comedy podcast focused on everything folklore, mythology, and the occult, told through the lens of feminism, queerness, and modern adulthood. Every week, mythology buff Julia and her childhood best friend Amanda get together to learn about a different story from mythology and folklore over drinks. That's everything from the mythological origins of major franchises like Lord of the Rings and Wonder Woman to modern urban legends to a roundup of werewolf stories from around the world. It's super conversational and fun. They have a similar vibe to what we're doing at Birds of a Feather, where they keep it loose and see where the conversation takes them, but are well-versed in what they're talking about at the same time. It's super fun. Start listening with any of the almost 500 episodes they've released over the last 10 years. There's so much to enjoy, whether you're here for analysis of mental health and mythology or creepy modern ghost stories. Dive in at spiritspodcast.com or search for Spirits wherever you download your podcasts. You're going to like it. All right, we can get into the episode.
We can have an addenda.
We can put this at the front end of our
there we go.
Our Costa's episode. Yeah. So for everybody listening to our Costa's hummingbird, go back and make sure you listen to our Black-backed Woodpecker episode, and Shannon has some mythology.
I'm going to cause problems right away. I will say it Costas, and I'm not sure whether it's right or not.
Costas?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Like Bob Costas?
Yeah, like Bob Costas. Exactly.
Nice.
What did I say? Costas?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Costas.
It's a California way of saying it.
Yeah. Well, Bob Costas is a kind of a little guy, and these are little hummingbirds. That's the way I'll remember it. No offense, Bob Costas.
I'm sure Bob Costa will be suitably impressed with your analogy.
Yeah.
Or not.
I think he's an avid listener.
Yeah.
It depends on if the quarterback for Seattle actually,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
tells him in their next interview.
That's right.
Well, Shannon, tell us about the mythology of the black-backed woodpecker.
Yeah. Because I have never really done this so much, but because I've gotten so into where words come from, and usually the words lead you down the mythology path. So the scientific name for black-backed woodpecker is Picoides arcticus. And we have 73 in our collections, but Picus is Latin for woodpecker, and oides is Greek for resembling. So resembling woodpecker. I don't know why they have to resemble a woodpecker when they are one, but
because they're so weird. They have 3 toes.
That's not for, maybe that is it actually. That could be, but that's not for me to say. But Picus comes from Roman mythology, and Picus was a king and a founder of a tribe near Rome, and he got his name because he relied on woodpecker for divination. But the story was that he was really, really, really attractive, apparently. And Circe tried to seduce him.
Oh, here we go.
He rejected her in the most brutal, apparently, of ways. And so she turned him into a woodpecker. And when his kind of allies came to his rescue, she turned them into a whole bunch of beasts as well. Poor Picus's devoted wife couldn't find him and wandered, because he was a woodpecker, and wandered the forest for days until she laid down on by a tree and died.
Oh,
I told
wow.
you it was mythic.
See, that's what it's like. If a bird are looking for an Arctic, for a Black-backed Woodpecker. I'm just saying. There are a lot of bodies out there.
That is a giant leap of logic.
Hey, the Romans can do it, so can I. I was going to actually bring up that there's a part in Listers where they're looking for a three-toed woodpecker, and suddenly they see one. And I remember thinking, that's exactly sort of my experience with them. Like Ryan was saying, is that you can spend an awful lot of time looking without seeing one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I think the inclusion in ornithological circles and in birdwatching circles is underreported, not considered nearly enough. I mean, we seem to think it's okay, for example, that most young birding clubs, 80% of the kids in these young birding clubs are male. It used to be 100%, so it's better than it used to be. But still, I don't think there's much outreach to little girls to get them involved in bird watching. It's seen as a solo thing and often something that boys do with older men. Kind of the pathway to getting better at it is through experience. And that often leaves girls out who don't tend not to like solo events and want it to be a social experience. And I think that's so important for girls. But, you know, if you're the only girl in a group of boys, that's not happening. And so you leave people out because you don't look like a place that they could belong. And I think a lot of disabled people feel that about being in nature. It's a place that would be good for them, given that breathing outside air is so good, but that, you know, a physical or behavioral limitation can keep you away. And when you keep people away, you don't learn as much about birds as you could otherwise. I mean, Ryan is right about that.
Yeah.
Everybody looks at the world differently. And if you cut out people from looking at the world differently around you, you cut off yourself from learning other things that are outside of your realm of experience. And you then can't pay it forward with an understanding to other people that come into your life that have certain disabilities.
Mhm.
I feel like, Amanda, we're incredibly lucky with our group, our Audubon group. Rena Cohen, who organizes our chapter, is just an incredible person. And like, we keep hearing about all these stories, like with what Ryan told us and from other people, how it's, you know, the boys club, or, you know, newcomers aren't welcome and stuff like that. And where Amanda and I started, like, we showed up our first day without binoculars even, and nobody laughed at us. Someone was like, I have a pair in my car.
Yes.
And
changed our lives.
Yeah. And, you know, it's led by Rena, who's a woman, and she's, you know, an incredible person, incredible organizer, makes everybody feel like so welcome. And, you know, that can make such a difference in your whole experience. And it's like, I just wish that all chapters, or, you know, every birding group would have a Rena and, you know, somebody that is nice and kind and open to newcomers and people of all types.
Without that, we wouldn't be sitting, the four of us.
Right.
That's right.
On a little bunch of rectangles on a screen together.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't have seen John in that random way going to the museum.
I know.
Yeah.
I was to say, it's something to be honest, what was so great about talking to Ryan is it's something that I never actively thought about or independently thought about. So I think what's great about Ryan is he's like putting this idea in everybody's mind, because it's probably something I'm sure other people haven't thought about either. So it was like so cool. Like, he's obviously like such a brave, cool person. So it was great to hear his perspective, and just probably educated a lot of us, I'm sure.
Yeah. And he he stepped out and just contacted me about it. Well, he put a Facebook post up, and I commented back on his Facebook post, and you know, and then I said, well, why don't you come on our podcast and talk about what it's like to be an autistic bird watcher, and how, you know, we can work to make things more inclusive. People aren't going to do things they don't know about. And it's not really that people are often, they're amenable to all of these things. They just don't know, never thought about it. They've never been in a situation where that mattered.
Yeah, I was just going to give a shout out also, because I mean, Rena's amazing, but and there are some other folks like Libby Hill at the Evanston North Shore Bird Club, who's still organizing things at the age of 90 for for the folks in Evanston,
Wow.
which
Awesome.
is always a source of absolute amazement for me.
That's so cool.
Seriously. That's incredible.
She's still traveling around looking at birds all over the place. She went with her
Wow.
family to Jamaica recently.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Well, I wanted to read, so this is a mailbag question that we had that kind of made us want to do this, Costa's hummingbird. I'm saying it right now. So this is from Jean. And Jean said, I've been listening to your podcast for a while now, and I've learned so much and enjoyed it more than I can say. I live in Reno, Nevada, at an elevation of 4,500 feet. We don't get a lot of precipitation, but we get enough to have a good selection of birds, and I enjoy seeing them all. There is one bird that is new to the area, and it is a Costa's hummingbird. It showed up in my yard last summer, and it is still here the end of February 2026. This week we had some severe weather with 10 inches of snow and lows down to 20 degrees 2 nights in a row. During the daytime, I kept the hummingbird feeders out and kept them filled with sugar water, changing it every half hour or whenever it got too cold, which I normally do for the Annas. I really didn't think this hummer would survive, but he did, and I'm thrilled. We have always had Anna's hummingbirds here in the winter, and I wonder if we will now get a permanent population of the Costas. Maybe there have always been Costas here, and I've just never seen them. I have seen black-chinned and rufous hummingbirds, but they always migrate when it gets cold. I just want to share my experience with this pretty little bird, and this is from Jean H.
Oh,
So
cool, Jean.
Yeah.
Man.
So if folks don't know what Costa's hummingbird looks like, they're one of the smallest North American hummingbirds, and the females will be fairly modest with greenbacks and white breasts, and but the males have this beautiful purple gorget that covers and the feathers, the iridescent feathers cover the entire head. And from growing up in Arizona, I would always call this bird something that was lower Sonoran desert, meaning it gets commoner in Arizona the closer you get to the Gulf of Mexico. Or the Gulf of California. So it wasn't very common in Tucson when I was growing up, but it's gotten more common. So coming back to the mailbag question, it does appear that possibly that bird is actually beginning to move further north as the result of global warming. And I think the same thing's happening over in California too, that they're becoming. And again, one of the things that's also amazing about this is because of people putting out bird feeders in the winter, these birds can actually use those feeders and survive the winters too.
I didn't even realize that hummingbirds will stick around in the winter until reading this. That was pretty fascinating to hear about. So that's a thing. They'll stick around.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's some and it's actually, there are 300 species of hummingbirds in the world, and a lot of them, the highest diversity is on a latitudinal basis is Colombia, but you can set out feeders anywhere in the Andes or in the lowlands of South America, and you can get hummingbirds to come in and feed at sugar water. And so it's definitely something that works with hummingbirds, and they'll get used to using.
So do they just need the food, the sugar water, to stay alive? Because I was going to say, wouldn't it get too cold?
So good question. So one of the things that and I would guess, I would not have said that Costas would be a bird that could do this, but there's another species that's a little bigger called rufous hummingbird, which you guys have probably seen in Colorado.
Yeah.
They breed all the way up to Alaska. So there's a species that has gotten used to surprisingly cold temperatures in the spring as they move north and can have cold temperatures. And some of these birds can go into torpor. So they literally have the ability to slow everything down and just sit out some of these bad weather situations.
So when they go into torpor, because I was reading that the Costas does that for an extended period of time, or is it for a couple days? Like, do they control is it just like time to relax and keep my heart rate down?
Yeah, I think it's not for an extended period of time. It's to wait out things.
Okay.
There are birds like porwills, which I think can go into torpor. These are the sister group to hummingbirds. These nocturnal night jars, and they can go in. Some of them can go into torpor in cold regions like Porwell in the west. But I don't think the hummingbirds. I mean, there are hummingbirds up at above tree line in the Andes, and those regularly go into torpor too. But again,
So
they're not.
I got completely fascinated by torpor again. And periodically, I end up doing this. So
You wish you could do it. You kind of do.
I was going to say I might spend most of my life in some
in torpor,
state of torpor. But so when they go into torpor, they do it at night, and it's a way of keeping energy, not wasting energy at night, because when you need that much sugar food to survive, you can't stay at that metabolic rate because you're not feeding at night. So when they go into torpor, how many beats a minute do you think their heart is going?
I know the answer because I looked it up.
50.
Okay.
50 beats.
Wow.
But when they are awake, their heart is beating 500 to 1,000 beats per minute.
Gosh,
that is crazy.
That's insane.
Isn't that insane? And
yes.
One of the other things that's really important, because they live in desert environments like this, is maintaining some form of hydration, and torpor helps with that too. So they lower their body temperature when they're doing that, and that helps them, conserve hydration in their bodies. It's really,
wow.
I mean, they're tiny, so they weigh what a pre-1982 American penny weighs. So before they started taking out the expensive parts of pennies, they they weigh that's how little they weigh.
Wow.
1 penny, an entire bird. And that's not
crazy.
The smallest hummingbird either, which is pretty mind-boggling. But they have one of my favorite names, me into my words again. We have 110 of them. And their scientific name is Costa, but Calypti is again from an ancient Greek word. This is kaluptri. Anyways, it means a woman's veil or headdress. And it could be calyptos too, which is, they don't know exactly where the word comes from, which is covered or hidden. So it's referring to the way the purple gorget is around them, like a woman's veil around them. Their throat feathers are just unbelievable in that purple, like very, very vivid purple. So there's only 2 species in that genus. And I think we've done the other one, right?
Do we do Anna's hummingbird?
Didn't we do Anna's hummingbird?
I think we had it on the list, and then maybe it got got bumped or something. Yeah.
So the gorgets and hummingbirds, again, this is sexual selection where females are choosing males based on their gorgets, but they also actually have these incredible aerial displays too. And when I was doing my master's degree along the Gulf of California, these little arroyos that were dry and had vegetation would have various territories of males, and you can hear them, and they do this little sing, and they're just like doing this whole loop, and it's just absolutely crazy to watch them do that.
This is a bird we know surprisingly little about, and I had never really thought about, we know very little about their migration. And one of the reasons why I'd never thought of this, is that there's really extreme sexual dimorphism in these birds. So the females and young males, I guess, look a lot like black-chinned and Anna's hummingbirds. So if you see a male, you recognize it as as what it is, as a Costa's hummingbird. But if you see a female or an immature male, you don't know what it is. And so those species overlap in their distributions. And so, people don't know. You can't ask them to say, can you please tell me which species you actually belong to? And the other, so if they overlap, they're just hidden. And it's only when a male goes that people note it, and then you know something about migration. So do females and males move differently through the landscape? Who knows? We don't know.
That's interesting. They know a lot about hummingbird migration in some of the birds like Rufous hummingbird.
Right.
But another thing about hummingbirds is, if you think about it, the way we've gathered data on where individuals are going historically has been through bands, putting metal bands on them. And you can put bands on hummingbirds, but they're the most insane thing I've seen
Yeah.
in the sense that you literally have to cut them out. They print numbers, tiny, tiny numbers on these flat sheets of aluminum, I guess, and you can literally put those on hummingbirds, but they don't necessarily work and hummingbirds are hard to catch in a lot of situations. So trying to recapture them to get the banding data just hasn't been very easy in the past.
And they're so small. There's no trackers that are small enough right now to really monitor them in that way. So I just found it really interesting. Apparently, and I'd like to understand exactly how this happens. Some of the females can have some purple, violet, purple feathers in the white on their throats,
Oh,
which
cool.
is pretty cool.
That has
And
the
I
same
have
like
no idea.
iridescence as the male?
It's not, it doesn't seem to be as bright, but it's certainly, if you see that, you know it's not a black-chinned or an Anna's hummingbird.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but not every female has it. I don't know what the distribution of females that has it.
That sounds like something that
Yes.
happens in some of the tanagers, the North American tanagers. So summer tanagers, older females sometimes have red feathers in their plumage as opposed to being. And so I wonder if it's probably I wonder if it's genes that are getting turned on because of various hormonal imbalances as individuals age or something.
These things have really unbelievable records of vagrancy, though, for a bird that has a pretty limited distribution. You can get some in British Columbia.
Wow. They go all the way up to British Columbia? There have been?
Not on purpose.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
maybe eventually on purpose, but
Oh, yeah.
Coming back to that letter, so black-chinned hummingbird has become not uncommon in southern British Columbia, particularly in the Okanagan Valley, which is this dry valley that extends up across the border. And I think that's very likely the result of sort of a combination of maybe adaptation in the hummingbirds, but also warming habitats across the West. Yeah.
Have you guys seen that there was I think we wanted to talk about this originally when we were going to talk about the Anna's hummingbird, but there's it was a PBS documentary and it was also a full-length feature. I think on PBS it was called Hummingbirds of Hollywood, and then the actual documentary was called Every Little Thing, and it was this woman in California who like saves injured hummingbirds. And it's just a really well done documentary. I just wanted to give that a shout out because Amanda and I watched that and really liked it.
Excellent.
It's like people know her, that she's the person that will like save them or whatever, and she runs this like wildlife refuge, but people will call her up and she'll come pick them up if they find an injured one or whatever. But she has this whole big like facility and just by herself independently kind of rehabilitates them and lets them out and everything. And I don't know,
what platform can you watch it on?
So I think it's on Canopy right now.
What's that?
Oh, so I'll give a shout out to Canopy. It's an app. If you have a library card, it's kind of like Hoopla. So if you download the Canopy app and you use your library card information, you get access to all this media. And I think it's mostly film, but
there's
it's really
Libby
excellent.
App do you use the Libby app for that too?
I use the Libby app all the time. Yeah, that's an excellent thing from your library too. That's
been a really important thing for people with hearing loss, because you can get the spoken book and the printed book, and those are really important things to do when you're rehabbing if you get a cochlear implant, because when you read the words, your brain then, you read them out loud even, your brain then associates the word back with the sound that's coming in, because you have to retrain your brain what every single word and every single sound is, because it doesn't know it anymore, because your brain's not getting the information through the same pathways. And doing things like that, and especially having someone whose voice you're really familiar with, speeds the process up. So if you don't want to read to yourself, which seems a little bit weird anyway, I do read to myself, though, when I'm by myself. Nobody can see me. But, so having a loved one read to you while you're looking at the words is a really important way of retraining your brain to hear through this device, which is really nice. And so there are all these sweet videos online of husbands reading to their wives and wives reading to their husbands, which I find it's very charming.
That is.
When I was pregnant, Pete, we used to read books. John read books to me in bed, Barbara Kingsolver books and some other things, because it stopped us from fighting over what Pete's name was going to be, which reading the baby name books did not go over well because he vetoed every single name I had. And so we never had a girl's name. Good thing he was a boy, because we had a boy's name early on, but there was no agreeing on a girl's name. I wanted to call a girl Samantha and have the nickname be Sam, and he absolutely rejected.
That's too hard to spell.
John Bates, no syllables. Samantha at least has syllables.
Says the guy who used to spell his name as a little kid, Jhon.
Jahone.
Yeah.
Hey, it's harder. It's harder than RJ.
Yeah.
So, coming back to this documentary, Anna's hummingbird, like Costa's, these Western hummingbirds are doing some really interesting things. And so, for instance, Shannon's mom is in a extended care home in Vancouver now, and she's got Anna's hummingbirds coming to her feeder.
Every day.
At
least one of them every day.
And what fascinated me was I hadn't really thought about it, that it would happen in the winter too, that these things would be able to survive the winter. But on the coast of British Columbia, it's mild enough in the winter that they can. And so if you go on eBird and you call up the sightings on the map for the Vancouver area, it basically blackens out the map. With points. And so I'd love to know what they think the total population is just in that area. But Anna's hummingbird is a bird that's populations have almost doubled in size over the past 50 years or so, because they've expanded their distribution so much.
Well, you know what I'd like to do? I would like to go by and see where there are feeders and see if the distribution, how much of the distribution in these novel places now has to do with the distribution of feeders. People certainly put feeders up more frequently now, and they leave them up all winter because of the potential to attract and keep alive hummingbirds over the winter.
But I do want to make just a plug for going to someplace in the middle of nowhere like Puerto Lobos, Sonora, and getting to one of those canyons and then walk along and hear this Costa's hummingbird displaying, because it's definitely a cool thing to do.
And I hope it's a male and that you have good binoculars so that you can see the incredible purple veil around this bird's head and face.
Yeah. I was going to ask, is it just the male that does that cool display?
Yeah.
The flying, I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
so it's like
one of my memories from my fieldwork was one day hearing one and not being able to see it fly, and walking down the arroyo a little bit and then finding it sitting on a branch. And it was almost like it was like making the call and visually practicing what it was going to do, because it was just sitting there with its head just going zing, zing.
Oh, that's so cool.
They got to learn how do they learn how to do that?
Yes. So cool.
They watch their daddy.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, I think we're getting kind of close on time with this one. Is there anything else on the Costa's hummingbird we want to?
No, just hummingbirds are great. The only one in the east is ruby-throated, but you go out west and you got a lot of possibilities in different places. And at some point we'll get to talk about all of them.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Costa, unlike the joke about Bob Costa, that's not what it was named for. It was named in honor of Louis-Marie Pantaleon Costa, Marquis de Beauregard, who lived in 1806 to 1864, and he was a French nobleman and ornithologist. So that's the Costa part.
Not Bob Costas.
Not Bob Costa.
if you're listening.
That's a nice try, though.
That was
But I
more
don't think
a mnemonic for my brain than to
I don't
tell
think
other
Bob
people.
Costa would want to think that he's alive in 1856 either.
No. Hey everyone, just a reminder, we have some Birds of a Feather stickers that we want to give away to all of you. If you write a podcast review and rating in your podcast app and then email us at podcast.birdsofafeather@gmail.com, we'll send you a free sticker in the mail. We appreciate you all. Thanks so much for listening. Love you all. Have a great rest of your week.